Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, party people, it's Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple of dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. This is episode 148 of Gridiron Grinder. And for tonight, we're going to kick things off with Name That Stadium. Then we're going to cover the news from this past week. After that, we're going to jump into some hypothetical off-season trade scenarios that we think could be hanging out there. And then after that, we'll close things off with question of the week. And so, with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Just getting settled in at the new place here. And one of these days, I might get a little more permanent home for my gridiron grinder action. I got a desk set up in the basement and some stuff like that. But, one day at a time here, man.
Yeah, true. Moving's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, you just got over it. I'm sure you're probably yeah, just got over it, but still probably fine tuning a few things. And yeah, I just got out of the thick of it, but still got plenty to go, man.
Yeah.
All right, bud. Well, yeah. Hey, why don't you take that ball and run with it? Do some name that stadium for us.
All right. So this segment show, as you can see, I'm kind of traveling around the various stadiums that host NFL games. Every once in a while I'll throw a curveball in there and do like an old time stadium or something. But you guess right, and you'll get an extra special bookmark shout out that you can just replay over and over again for your friends. I don't think we had any takers from like was it 2 weeks ago. I I didn't see any when I looked earlier, unless we had one that I missed.
No.
But last week or 2 weeks ago, last episode, I was in Houston and we were doing the coaching hires. I thought with hiring D'Amico Ryans, him going back to Houston, and then like how aggressive they were in the draft, I thought that so far it's looking like one of the better situations for a new coach to come into, with you have full support of the GM getting you the players you want and everything. So I chose Houston.
Well, I don't know if you just heard that. Sorry about that. Um, yeah, hey, a lot to be excited about with Houston, and I like that you had some inspiration for your choice there, buddy.
And I do have some obscure inspiration this week, so we'll go over that next time.
Yeah, I am curious, and maybe you'll tell me after the show just so I get the early info, but yeah, should be good. Okay, well, yeah, let's move it on over and do our recap of the past week. And so, even though we were off last week, the past 2 weeks, James, I really didn't see a whole lot of like hard news to cover. A lot of it was kind of like puff piece stuff, but there is still a list of things. And, why don't we just start off with sort of like the couple of sad pieces that came out. Former NFL quarterback Ryan Mallett, also from the University of Michigan, he has passed away at 35 in a drowning incident. And so, he was never a starting quarterback in the NFL, but bounced around for a little while as a backup and came out of Michigan, man, with a lot of potential. And there was also a little bit of controversy with him, and it didn't quite work out in the NFL, but nonetheless, obviously sad that he is dead at such a young age. And then also Clark Haggans, a former linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, won a Super Bowl with them, by the way. He passed away at 46. And so, man, I was surprised when I read the article on him. I didn't realize how long his career was. He played 13 seasons between Pittsburgh, Arizona, and San Francisco. And so, quite an impressive career. And once again, another young one. He passed away at 46, and so just a bummer. It seems like we're
Yeah.
getting one or more of these every week these days. And I don't know, maybe at some point we'll have to stop talking about them because I don't like getting bummed out every time we do the show. But it's just a part of life. So uh,
Yeah. And with Mallet, like I was surprised he only like I thought for some reason I thought he had like started one of the years when like a bunch of games when Brady got hurt, but he only had 8 total starts in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm surprised he even had that many, but he had, man, he just, I don't want to talk bad about him, but he had some drama, he had some baggage, and I don't know, it just seemed like he was one of those guys where he was a lot more talented than what we ended up getting to see on the field at the NFL level.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to put him down.
No,
So
I know. I was surprised. Like for some reason, especially like he was in Houston for a while and stuff. Like I thought he had more, but I guess not.
yeah, what can you do? It's all good. All right, so well, his situation obviously sad, but the stats, it is what it is at this point. All right, so in other news, less depressing news, the Patriots, they've extended a couple of their players this past week or so. Linebacker Jawan Bentley, he got a 2-year extension for 18.75 million, and wide receiver Devontae Parker got a 3-year extension for 33 million, which it was interesting because after the Parker extension, um, one of the articles said the Patriots are still very interested in DeAndre Hopkins, and so
Hmm.
I like that. I like that they're that somehow through the media getting that message out that they still want to kick the tires on him and see what's going on there. And I know Tennessee and some other teams are, I'm sure, interested as well. But the Patriots would be a good fit, and I think it's good that they made sure that got out there so that Hopkins camp isn't like, oh, they extended Parker. Let's just stop worrying about them. So
Yeah. So like I was a little surprised with the Parker extension. Like I thought he was kind of like on the way out there in New England, but uh, I guess I was wrong. Happens all the time, but
so I think part of it is that the offense was so dysfunctional last year. They're not putting it on him. And if you go back and you look at his time, going back to the Miami days, he's
no,
always had that potential. It just seems like he's not been consistent. How much of that is him? How much of that is the quarterback play? I don't know. Belichick seems to like him though, and maybe if they have like an actual offense this year because Bill O'Brien's back and probably knows a little bit more about offense than fucking Matt Patricia. Um, it might do Parker some good. It's all about what's going to happen with Mac Jones. Does it do Mac Jones some good, and then
yeah,
that'll resonate to the wide receivers like Parker and everybody else.
true, true. I just for some reason I thought he fell out of favor with Belichick.
Gotcha.
You know how Belichick goes hot and cold on people.
Oh man, yeah. Once you once you get in that guy's doghouse, man, it's game over for you. So I know what you mean. All right. So in other news, James, J.J. Watt, former NFL freaking legend, basically, he has joined CBS Sports as an analyst, and so we're hearing it more and more in this generation of the former players going on and getting into broadcasting or becoming an analyst or in some other way, staying connected to the game in a different facet. And so I like that. I like J.J. Watt, and so I think that's cool, man. I hope it's all good for him.
Yeah.
And so then this next one, man, I want to see if maybe you can shed some light on it. I think you were telling me some new players are being suspended for gambling related incidents. And so you mentioned Isaiah Rogers as one of them before the show. What have you seen on this? Because I mean, we know the stuff happened with like the Lions players, a month or two ago, and I was like, no way are they the only people that this
Hmm.
happened to. And now we're starting to see the trickle of some of these other investigations sort of bearing fruit elsewhere. And so, what can you tell me, man?
So first, I'm going to preface this as it's recently seeming like the NFL has realized that they um, didn't communicate the gambling policy as well as they did, because the NFL has been going around to the teams and clarifying and reiterating what players are allowed to do and not to do. And I didn't know this. You can't bet on, obviously you can't bet on the NFL. You can't gamble at your team facility.
Yeah.
Or while traveling for a road game. So, like if like say Kansas City's or Detroit playing in Kansas City, while on that trip to Kansas City.
Yeah, like you're in the hotel on Saturday night.
Right. So we can't gamble staying at a team hotel. You can't gamble while you're. The way I read it is traveling. Period. So like if you're in Kansas City, the entire time you're in Kansas City, you can't gamble.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, that's a different one that I haven't heard either, but huh. Yeah, I mean, I understand, hey, you can't gamble on the NFL if you're in the NFL. And
Mm-hmm.
I can even get on board with you can't gamble, period, if you're on our facility, in our facility, basically working, because that's like
Yeah.
an employer saying, this is a prohibited activity. I don't want you doing it when you're on the clock. Um, but yeah, okay, so yeah, the plot thickens, okay.
Yeah. So like you can't even gamble like in the parking lot. Like if you're on team grounds, like
Yeah,
you're going home, you're pulling out
because
of
they're somehow GPS like
yeah.
geolocating you to figure it out.
Yeah, and there's in total there's six. It's broken down to the six rules. Don't have someone bet for you. It's an obvious one.
Hmm.
Don't share team inside information. That's an obvious one.
Yeah.
Don't enter a sports book during the NFL season.
Okay, see that one I don't know if I agree with that one.
Yeah, I don't.
Because what if you're on your bye week, and
Mm-hmm.
coach is like, "Hey man, we're taking practice off. Go enjoy your day or whatever." And you and your buddies want to go out hit the town. Like you could be betting on frickin' women's basketball or something. And, um, so what's that one? It's like we just don't want you to be tempted or something. So just don't even go there.
I think
Or
that's
it's because you could be placing cash bets and maybe we can't track them. Maybe that's why. I don't know.
yeah, that or also like I think it's a perception thing.
Okay.
So like if you're entering a sports book, like nobody knows what you're betting on. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's risky, Yeah, because if nobody knows, then yeah, and I mean, I suppose potentially there could be cash bets where you're like, oh, I know fucking Tom Brady, his knee's all banged up. I'm gonna fucking bet that they're in trouble this week or whatever. But
yeah,
okay, no, so
and then
that one makes a little more sense for me. I got it.
the last one is don't play daily fantasy football,
Don't play daily fantasy football. Okay.
which I would think it was fantasy football overall, but
Yeah, yeah,
I guess daily's a little bit different. So, anyways, Isaiah Rogers was suspended indefinitely. Defensive of Isaiah Rogers of the Colts, he was suspended indefinitely. His bets included, from what's being reported, a $1,000 over/under bet on the yards for a Colts running back.
yeah.
I Rashad Berry was suspended indefinitely, but and there's a free agent which I'm not seeing in this list. I
So, so with Rodgers, I don't mean to cut you off, but does it tell us if he was taking the over or the under? Because if he's taking the under, that is like crazy suspicious because then it's like then this guy maybe is hurt or the offensive line's having an issue, and so you're betting that he's not going to do good because you got inside knowledge. But it's like if you're taking the over, some of that's like it's still bad, but it's like you're you're like, no, this guy's going to do great, man. Like that's different to me.
Yeah, nothing. I I haven't seen any information on what the actual bet was,
Okay.
but so then both Rodgers and Rashad Berry were released today by the Colts.
Oh
Um,
shit, I didn't know Rodgers got released, but I guess,
yeah,
it's like the same thing as the Cephas thing with the Lions. They just said you're out indefinitely, so see you later. You're out here too.
right. Then uh, free agent Demetrius Taylor was also suspended indefinitely,
Okay.
and then blah 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 blah. Who's the? And then it was offensive lineman Nicholas Pettit Frere, Frere, Frere,
Oh yeah.
was suspended for 6 games because his
Gotcha.
bets were on non-NFL sports
Yeah.
while at the Titans facility.
Yeah, that's like the Jamison Williams situation.
Yeah, which uh,
So
from
now with James
what I'm seeing is the Titans did not release um, uh, Pettit.
Petit Friere, however you say his name.
Yeah.
So I heard with Jameson recently, and I don't know how true this is, but I heard that uh, people were expecting him and maybe even a little upset that he didn't try to appeal that 6 game suspension. But I heard that him and his sort of like advisors uh, decided not to because if you appeal it, the league can make the penalty worse. So, like, it gives the league a chance to dig deeper and then potentially extend the suspension. And so they said, nope, we're just going to take the 6 games on the chin and move on with life. And so that made me wonder, okay, maybe there's some more skeletons in that closet that they don't want coming out. But either
Yeah.
way,
Well,
they're taking it, and we're going to be waiting anxiously for week 7. So
yeah. So apparently, and that's the weird thing is none of these suspensions have been appealed.
yeah,
Not one of them, not the previous wave, not this wave, and I'm kind of surprised it hasn't because because the league with them going through and reiterating the policy is the perception of it to me is that the league is realizing that they didn't communicate the policy good enough in the first place or well enough in the first place. So I'm
I
surprised that nobody has appealed that.
dude, for me, especially with Isaiah Rogers is another one of these examples. You have to be just totally out of it to not know what happened to Calvin Ridley the other year. And, in his suspension being out all of last year because of it. And so to me, it's like, I don't know. I just don't see how you could be in the sport and not know. And then you would think that not only are the teams telling the players, but their agents are telling the players. And you know, to me, I'm thinking that the league is saying, okay, we're finding more of these, and we're going to continue to find more because maybe more of these investigations are ongoing, and they're like, we just better hammer it home again because there's just going to be a huge wave of suspensions if we don't keep like banging this into people's brains, man.
Yeah, so I actually found the wording of for league personnel of the gambling policy,
Okay.
and it says gambling in the workplace or while working. NFL personnel shall not engage in any form of gambling in any club or league facility or venue, e.g., practice facility, stadium, team hotel, draft, or other league club event, on any league or club charter or other transport, while traveling on club or league business, or while making an endorsement or promotional appearance.
Okay.
And
And if
so,
you're confused on that language, then you ask your agent
yeah.
or
And
or or somebody in the building.
see, what I'm also reading is that while we're hearing about the players being suspended for it, there's league personnel
Hmm.
that have been fired or removed, or team personnel that have been fired or removed from their jobs for violating the
Yep.
gambling policy as well.
Yeah, there was one of
So
the Lions guys, right, that was in the front office that got
yeah,
suspended as part of it or whatever. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, it is a problem, but it I'm really surprised that not one of these players have built it. So that tells me what skeletons are in the closet. Like you said, what skeletons are in the closet
Yeah.
that they don't
Uh,
want to be more
oh
or
yeah.
don't want to be known.
And maybe some of them thought about it, and the league was like, "Are you sure?" So, but hey, that's all right. I mean, this is just it's just part of the evolution of the NFL. And
Yeah.
it sucks because you don't want anybody tainting the game. And some of these guys, if they were, the ones that were betting on non-NFL stuff, those are the ones that you feel bad about because it's like, well, maybe they just were confused about the policy or something,
Hmm.
because it's not like they were betting on an NFL game, which is where that's really where it gets dirty. The rest of it is you're just gambling. So, but all right, so let's keep going here, man. So, in other NFL news, Chuck Clark, the new New York Jet safety, tore his ACL. James,
Hmm.
he is out for the year. I'm bummed out about that one. I was excited to see him in that Robert Saleh defense. And, this is like the all in year for the Jets. And so it would have been kind of cool, but he's now out. So that's a bummer. And then the next piece I got here is Tyreek Hill. I don't have all the details on this, but he is under investigation for a possible assault and battery incident. And so, obviously, as we get more information on this, we're going to keep letting people know. We're going to track it because, anything related to him and any potential suspension, that'd be huge news. So,
Yeah, I had missed that. So uh,
it was like deep in the NFL Network or NFL.com news feed, because we had the past 2 weeks off, so it was buried in there pretty good. So that's why I don't have all the details, but
so
yeah.
apparently on what the assault is, he's being investigated by police, and the league apparently there's a video of it, and they want to interview every police officer and detective involved in the investigation.
Okay.
On June 18th, Tyreek allegedly hit a man in the neck during a dispute at a marina in Florida.
Gotcha. Yeah, so we'll see what's going on there. And I can't, obviously, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't have any inside information, but Tyreek has uh, some dirt in the history going back to when Kansas City drafted him, and then even like his first year or two in the league, he had some stuff come up, and so um, nothing like catastrophic, but it's not like he's been squeaky clean up to this point either. So, all right, and then James, the last thing I got is the good old Detroit Lions. They have released.
Before you go to that,
Oh, all right. Before I go to that, yes. What do you got?
you you missed another suspension.
Oh, I did. Okay. Who got suspended?
Cam Robinson was suspended
Oh,
for 4 games for violating the PED policy.
man, I don't know why. I thought we got that already, but
Oh, he was just suspended today.
okay, yeah, I don't know. Maybe there was the announcement that he was in trouble for it in one of the last shows, but maybe the suspension is, or I'm just mixed up because man, that one I thought we already talked about at some point, but okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, he's out for 4. That's interesting because I actually I got a trade scenario that maybe relates to that without without me even knowing about a suspension. So
Yeah, and but the interesting thing I'm seeing, and I have to vet this, so I'm not certain. So in his contract, he had or his contract extension. I want to check this real quick, but I think it voided all the guaranteed money in his contract.
Ooh, that's an interesting clause. Yeah, you get suspended, you get that just yanked right out.
Yeah.
Wow.
So contract extension. So yeah, he signed it. It at least voids this, but most contracts have where if you're suspended, the I'm trying to find the guaranteed real quick, but I'm
Sure.
not finding like where the guarantees. I know it was so it was a 3-year deal worth a max of 54 million. Uh, yeah, I'm not seeing what the guarantee. I know this year's guarantee was 16 million, but it's no
Okay.
longer guaranteed. But I'm not seeing if there's any other guarantees. So he signed it last year, so it would have been for 22, 23. So and it was 3 years. I don't think, but yeah, it voided all the guarantees. So they could in effect waive them and have no cap hit.
I mean, for a 4 game, when he's your
No,
left tackle, they won't, but I know what you mean.
right, but well, I'm not literally saying like this week waive them, but
Yeah.
like next year, like going into the year, like obviously they're not because he's there.
Oh, you're saying so because he has more years on his contract.
Yeah,
If his if let's say he does his 4 games and then he comes back and he has sort of like a lackluster year and they're just like, wow, he's like really not living up to this contract now. Yeah, then they got an out. That's what you're saying.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. And I like I don't know, I don't want to sound like a dick or whatever saying this, but I like when the league or when teams are able to do these things in contracts because it's like the bullshit Kyler Murray thing. It's like, you know, you need to find a way to have more teeth in these contracts for
Hmm.
when the players are fucking off like that. And, you know, otherwise it's just like, okay, they're suspended and now the team's fucking hurt by it and the team has like no way to like be remedied. They just have to deal with what the player did, man. It's like not fair to the team.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and like the annoying thing about the Kyler Murray thing was the fact that like after there was pushback on the homework clause or
Yeah,
it was made public,
they
the
folded.
team the team folded on it, which is bullshit.
Yeah, that part really bothered me. That's like, come on, man. If it's a legit problem, fucking stick to your guns, man.
Hmm.
If you got the if you, I don't want to say if you got the balls. If you've got the nerve to write that in a contract, you better have the balls to fucking stick to it. Like it's otherwise it's like you just look like a little bitch putting
Hmm.
some garbage in the contract and then, oops, nope, we can't do this. Okay. Yeah, that was poor, dude. That was so poor.
Yeah, and then Miles Sanders was talking about how every running back in the NFL is underpaid.
Sure. Yeah. Every executive in corporate America is underpaid too, James.
Hmm. But he did say like something. It was a weird quote.
Okay. And by
Like
the
he's
way, I think that all of our IRS agents out there are underpaid as well, James. Just so you know.
yeah,
No
okay. So
com-
he
no
said
comment.
he said you want to franchise tag and create a certain market for running backs just because you have this way of thinking that they only last for 3 or 4 years. I think it's BS. Honestly, almost every running back is underpaid right now. I don't know what it's going to take. That's a topic that needs to be brought up a little more because it sucks to be a running back right now.
Well, you know, stay healthy, hang on to your speed, and put 10 plus years in, like wide receivers and quarterbacks and offensive linemen and all these other positions do, and then maybe you can be at those levels of pay. It's I don't know, man. We talked about it in our last show. The running back market has been flooded. When you can get a guy undrafted or get a guy in the middle rounds and have him put up damn near
Mhm.
production as guys that are getting drafted in the first, second round, sorry, it's just the way it goes, man.
Yeah, it really is. It's like there's so many running backs that could step in and do what I mean. Shit. What's his face? James Robinson. Like, wasn't he
Yep.
like undrafted and he had that stellar season? I mean, nothing since then, but still, you have guys that can go undrafted and or late round picks like Hubbard.
Yep.
Why are you going to pay millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars when you could pay $2 million?
Yeah. It's a little bit harder at wide receiver. How many
Mm-hmm.
teams are struggling to find a wide receiver one? Same with quarterback. How many teams are struggling to find a top tier quarterback? It's like even in today's NFL with so much more passing, there's still like every year so many teams that have nothing at quarterback, man. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, when you find a guy that's a fucking stud at quarterback, that dude's going to fricking break the bank, man.
Yeah, and literally break the bank, which is which is why like people always say, oh well Brady kept taking less money to say why don't these quarterbacks do it? Why there was no obligation for Brady to take less money. It
No.
was his wife at the time made twice the money he did, so he didn't fucking need it. He's like, I'll take less. Yeah, sure, why? I
Yeah.
don't need the extra 20 million, but
Yeah, and that's, in some regard, I have a lot of respect for that because it's a guy that knew no matter what, he was set and he could focus on his legacy and figuring out how to get the best for the team and not just himself. And so that I admired out of Brady for sure, man.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so now can I go to the Lions helmet
Now you
here?
can go to the Lions helmet.
Thank you. Okay, so yeah, the Lions, they came out with a new helmet, and it's going to be played for one game only. It's a throwback helmet, and it's got what is it, like the Lions logo from like the 50s
Hmm.
on it. And it's a blue helmet with a different color blue. They're saying it's the first time this color blue has been in the NFL, and they're going to wear it with their all gray uniforms just one time. I happen to like it, but I know you're not a big fan of it, James.
All right. I don't like the color blue.
Okay,
That's on the helmet. I like the design of the helmet. I like the old time logo. I don't like that color blue.
gotcha. Okay, well, you're maybe meeting me in the middle a little bit, so I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I just that color blue. It's not Lions blue. It shouldn't be
Yeah.
anywhere near their fucking uniforms. It's like it's like when fucking Oregon Ducks wear that fucking fluorescent green. Their colors aren't fluorescent green. Why the
I know
fuck
what you
are they
mean.
wearing fluorescent green?
Because it fucking looks cool.
No, it looks fucking terrible.
Well, somebody thinks it looks cool.
It hurts my fucking eyes to watch the Oregon Ducks play
I think
when
it looks
they.
cool.
It hurts my eyes to watch that
Yeah,
game
yeah,
when they're wearing those uniforms
yeah.
or if you want to go to hockey, let's go to the Stanley Cup champions. Yeah, their color is that mustard ugly ass yellow, but you don't fucking want a jersey that's all that ugly ass fucking mustard yellow
No,
with a
just like
little
make that like
black
a
on
little
it.
trim piece. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be a trim piece.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw, what was it, like the University of Maryland came out with those crazy uniforms like, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago or
So
whatever. And
the
like the
crazy
helmet was like
uniforms,
totally different on one side than the
right,
other or whatever.
right,
And I was just like,
but but it makes sense because if you look at the uniform and you look at the helmet,
Yeah, yeah.
that design is the state of Maryland's flag.
No, I totally get it and I agree. It just was a shell shock the first time I saw it because nobody had really done things like that, you know? So, but yeah, I get you, man. So it's okay. And hey, you know, for the people that don't like the Lions helmet, it's one game. You'll get over it.
Mhm. I
Okay,
agree with your
James.
sentiment on it though, where with the gray helmet wouldn't go with the all gray uniforms.
Yeah, I like that there's a different color helmet because like the whole, you know, monochrome or whatever it's called where the whole uniform's the same color. I don't know, something about that I just don't like. So,
Hmm.
you know, at least this makes it a little bit different.
Well, it looks good. Like I just don't. I think it's the gray because like if it was like all white, it would
Okay.
look fucking sweet and it would pop. But it's the gray. It's kind of, especially like the helmet's a slightly different shade of gray when they wear their all gray. So it's like you have
Yeah.
like a darker gray and more of a silver on the helmet. It's just it throws me off a little bit.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Well, hey, man, why don't we shift it over and do our, you know, hypothetical, never too late off-season trade scenarios.
Sounds good to me.
Sweet. And so, you know, you know, we'll just start off by saying, you know, had we done this 3, 4 weeks ago, we'd be including DeAndre Hopkins and Dalvin Cook in the conversation.
Hmm.
But since they were released by Arizona and Minnesota, we'll talk about them later. In fact, we will talk about them in question of the week. And so, yeah, so, you know, in general, going through the exercise, James, you know, I know that we all have kind of like a different way of looking at this stuff. And sometimes we just want selfishly a player on our home team so that we're better. Sometimes we see a team and you're like, oh man, they're, you know, like Denver, oh, they're a quarterback away. And then they ended up being horrible with Russell Wilson. But, you know, like it's that whole hypothetical, you know, this one little thing could shore up their weakness and they could be a competitor. And, or, you know, it's like, hey, you got a franchise tag guy that they're having a hard time negotiating money. And so, since they can't get the deal worked out, even though he was franchised, they're going to trade him and somebody else is going to work a deal out with him.
Hmm.
And so, you know, there's a lot of ways to look at it. And, you know, we're just going to kind of like spitball. Some of the guys that I have on my list, James, they're like actually, you know, out there in the rumor mill from different sources. And some of them I'm going to try to like name the source that I got it from. Some of them are kind of like older, but just kind of like more commonly known. And then, and then some of them are just ones that for me, I'm just like hypothetically, hey, I could see connecting the dots, but I've not heard anything. It's just a purely hypothetical. And so, um, you know, we can do it any different way you want. I kind of have, you know, my list by position, and I don't have like 10 guys for each position. I got one or two or whatever, but, or we could just go whatever way you want to do. What are you thinking, man?
Uh, I don't really have it by position. I can try to throw it together by position.
Well, then
I
let's
don't.
go. Let's just go back and forth. Let's like you do one, I'll do one, and then it doesn't have to be in order of position. It can just be, you know, this is just the list of guys. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, and then you know, is it cool if I kick it off, or you know, what do you,
Let's
you know?
go
All
for
right.
it.
I don't know if my list is longer than yours or what, but yeah, I'll go first, and we'll, you know, when we get to the end, we get to the end. So, this one is, you know, this one's been reported in various news sources going back a few months now, and so I don't have the exact sources, but you know, big name guy, a lot of people have heard it, I'm sure, is Kyler Murray in Arizona, and you know, he got hurt last year. He's going to be out until potentially November, is what people are saying. And there's a whole new regime in Arizona that may not want to deal with his drama. You know, they're inheriting that whole study clause and, you know, the not study clause because it didn't get put in, but, you know, the baggage that came along with that. And I think the expectation is that they're going to be drafting very high next year. They're expected to have a bad season. And so if you could hit the reset button, this might be the time. Or maybe close to the trade deadline might be the time. And I think the big hangup is that his contract is a bit of an albatross here. There could be some major salary cap implications or complications, but if they did decide to make a move on him, James, I was just kind of looking at some of the teams that are out there, and I thought hypothetically Tampa Bay could be a dance partner maybe before the trade deadline. At that point of the season, they're going to know what they got in Baker Mayfield, which I would say more than likely is not their answer long term. And they could be thinking, you know what? Let's make the move. Kyler is a franchise guy. We don't care about his stupid study clause. We want to be competitive. And I could see them being a team that might make that trade. It would be complicated salary cap wise, but we live in a fake cap world, and so crazier things have happened, man.
So I'm going to stay with the same starting team,
Okay.
but go to a different position. And I meant to pull this earlier to double check something. So with what's going on in Arizona, and they have to go through a major rebuild there. Zach Ertz.
Oh man, old man Ertz.
Old man Ertz. But here's the thing. Cincinnati needs a tight end. Cincinnati needs that safety valve.
Yeah, what did they do? I know they got rid of Hayden Hurst. He's in fucking Carolina or something now. Who did they?
Didn't they also lose Uzoma?
Oh yeah, they lost him the year before. He went to the Jets.
Yeah, and then they lost. They have like fuck. This is what I have to look up because it's like I'm been trying and I forgot to pull it. I've been trying to think of who their tight ends are, but Burrow will need that safety valve at tight end. They have great wide receivers. I mean, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Their tight end currently is Irv Smith Jr., Drew Sample, Devin Asiasi, and Tanner Hudson.
Yeah, they're gambling on Irv Smith Jr. basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you what, man, I like that, James. I think you came out with a solid one because I think Ertz still has something in the tank, even though he's in that decline phase of his career. He could be, like one of those missing pieces to help get Cincinnati over the top.
Yeah, and I mean Cincinnati, he could be one of those missing pieces. I have another one later that's gonna be like just gonna blow your mind.
Okay, all right.
This one was my strongest one, and it would only take like probably a third round, fourth round draft pick.
Oh, I don't even know if it would be that much with Ertz at this stage of his career, but yeah. I mean,
but also if they trade him now, it would save them $9 million against the cap.
Yeah, and I mean, you're not competing. Tuck that money away, whatever.
Exactly.
All right, well, yeah, and then I guess sticking with Arizona yet again because I had one more guy from there, and this tied into your Cam Robinson news that you had. I thought, okay, let's just say they decide to hang on to Kyler Murray, or they can't trade him, so they're forced to hang on to him. What about Kelvin Beachum as a trade prospect? Because Beachum has come out in the news talking about Kyler Murray. And, Beachum is a stand up guy. So he's not like bashed Murray hard, but he's also made it very clear that Kyler Murray is not the leader that they need on that team. And if anything, Beachum is more of a leader to that team than Kyler Murray is. The problem with this one is that Beecham is like a really solid community member, and he's a really solid vocal leader for that team. So it would look really shitty for them to trade him. But at the same time, if you're hanging on to Kyler and there's any kind of a rift between these two guys, maybe you say, okay, we're sticking with Kyler. Beecham, you got to go. Plus, they drafted Paris Johnson Jr., and I've been hearing that they've been moving him around on the line, even potentially having him play at right tackle, which is where Beecham, that's where his spot's at right now. And so I had them connecting the dots here with Jacksonville, thinking, hey, Jawan Taylor left for Kansas City, and now maybe even more so with Cam Robinson being suspended. On top of that, Beecham, like I was saying, he's one of these high character guys. Doug Peterson values those kinds of players, let alone you look at how stacked that offensive line was in Philly when Doug Peterson was there. It still is. But I thought that could have been a good connection for a hypothetical draft or trade scenario, rather.
All right, I'm going to stay with the Bengals on this one.
Okay.
And this is the one that I think will blow your mind.
Okay.
We've all heard about how unhappy Austin Eckler is in Los Angeles.
Yes.
So, Cincinnati succeeded with kind of a two running back duo with
Mixon and Samaje Perine.
Yeah. And Mixon does sometimes get hurt.
Yeah, and he has that concussion, or migraine issue.
Yes. What if the Chargers traded Eckler to Cincinnati?
For like Tyler Boyd, because they want another wide receiver, and Cincinnati's wide receiver rich? Or just for a pick?
Possibly Tyler Boyd. But I think really I think the relationship there with Eckler and the Chargers is so strained, and with him entering the final year of his contract, like you probably could get again a third round pick, but maybe a second round pick. But what you're looking at, like if you give up a second round pick and you make the trade, like you're taking a huge step forward into making it to the Super Bowl and winning. So you're going to be picking 31, 32 anyways. Yep. So it'd be 60. It'd basically be a very late second round pick.
Oh yeah, and I mean we talk about the running back market's diluted. So if you had to give up a second round pick, it's not the end of the world, man, if it gets you a Super Bowl ring. Well, no, I like where your head's at with that, because I actually had one very similar to that, James. I was looking at the strife in New York with Saquon Barkley and the Giants, and I thought, hey, the Giants need a wide receiver, and Cincy might want to stack the deck and just fucking go hard on running backs because, like you mentioned, they were highly effective with Perine and Mixon. Mm-hmm. Plus, Mixon gets banged up every now and then. I thought that could be interesting because, I've been hearing for a little while now that Tyler Boyd at some point is going to be the odd man out, because they definitely are hanging on to Jamar Chase, and they're really liking what's going on with Higgins and his development. And it'd be hard for them to have a third guy with big money in the wide receiver room. Well, if you decided that now's the time to make that move, Boyd could be a potential trade guy in the mix there. Or if you could pull it off, you go for picks and you just go all in for, we're going to win a fucking Super Bowl this year. We're going to hang on to Boyd and we're going to trade a pick to the Giants to get this guy and see what happens. But it's tough because I think the Giants really do like Saquon. It's just that the contract thing is difficult. And then even with Saquon, So I had Boyd as a separate guy here, which is kind of what led me to this. But I thought, man, if Saquon was going to get traded, where would he, where would he be really good at? And would Cincinnati be it? Um, Man, I don't know. I like what you're saying with Eckler. Man, I would like that so much more, I think. Okay, all right. Who's your next one, man? I'm going to get carried away here.
All right. So I'm going to stick with the Chargers on this one.
Okay.
So, what happened to my notes? The Titans have a safety that is
Oh, yeah.
they've asked to take a pay cut this season.
Oh, yeah.
What if the Chargers, who also lost one of their safeties this year, what if Tennessee traded Bayard, sorry, Kevin Bayard to the Chargers? And imagine free safety, Bayard, strong safety, Derwin James.
Yeah.
And it would take probably a wide receiver, probably Palmer, and a pick
Okay.
back.
Yeah,
Because I think
Tennessee needs help at wide receiver. That's
Tennessee
for
needs
sure.
help at wide receiver. I think what's his face? Brandon Staley's kind of realizing that this year's his make or break year as an
Yeah.
NFL coach, and he's supposed to be a defensive guru.
Yeah, I know, man. Jeez. You wouldn't retool that deal to have Keenan Allen by any chance, would you? Because Keenan Allen had all that weird shit going on with his fucking hamstring or whatever last year, and then they drafted what's his face from TCU. Like I could see, and that would be more exciting for
If
Tennessee because then
if
it's like he's a wide receiver one.
if you tweak that deal and put Keenan Allen in it, then you take out the draft pick.
Yeah, or maybe Tennessee has to throw something else in too to make it
Yeah,
worthwhile. Yeah,
exactly.
I got you. I'd be down with that, man. And I had Byard on my list. I had him either to the Jets with the Chuck Clark injury, or to the Giants because the Giants lost Julian Love in free agency, and I think the Giants, because they got into the playoffs the way they did, sort of like a surprise ahead of schedule kind of thing, and then they won a game. They want to keep that momentum going, and so I could see the Giants like just running down any option that's out
Mm-hmm.
there if it makes their team better. And in either way, it's like you're saying. So they asked Byard to take a pay cut. He refused it, and now basically he's saying he has no bad blood. Everything's good with the team. Well, historically, James, that's never true.
Yeah.
The team obviously wouldn't have asked him to take a pay cut if they weren't serious about it. And so even though they're saying they're okay and that everybody's lovey-dovey and whatever else, you bet your ass the team is probably making some phone calls thinking, fuck this guy. We wanted him to take a pay cut. He said no. We're going to get him out of here. The problem is fucking Tennessee, they're so deprived of talent now that it's like you're saying, they got to get somebody back. If they get a wide receiver or something, you can't
Mm-hmm.
just trade this guy for a pick because it means you're going to be down one more good player this year. And man, I don't know. It just seems like Vrabel's going to break somebody's freaking neck if they don't get him some talent to work with, man.
Yeah, I agree there.
All right.
ADD kicked in.
Yeah, so shit, I don't know. Is it my turn here?
Yeah, I think it's your turn because I came up with the Bayard one, and then you said you had, well, unless you went Bayard to the Giants, so I guess that's my turn again.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, man.
All right. Where should I go? Which one?
Where did you come from? Where did you go?
All right, I'll do this one.
Do it to it.
and this is out of left field.
Okay.
And because we have all said, or we have all heard how the GM in Minnesota does not like Kirk Cousins.
Oh yeah,
Reading between the lines.
I heard a rumor about Cousins, and he's on my list, but it's not for something I came up with. So I'm interested to hear what you got to say here, man.
Kirk Cousins to San Francisco.
Okay.
For Trey Lance.
I would freaking love it. I would
Straight
freaking
up.
love it. Yeah.
Yeah, Minnesota's getting a former number 1 pick that obviously he struggled, but I think McConnell, who's from San Francisco, should it won't be too much of a transition for McConnell's from San Francisco, right? McDaniel, what's his face?
No, he was with the Rams.
Yeah, I realized that as I was saying it.
But it's also, McVay and Shanahan, and I think O'Connell, maybe back when Shanahan was with I think they were together somewhere else. I don't know if it was Atlanta, but I think they were together on a team somewhere else too.
So let me see. His coaching career, Redskins.
Thank you. Yeah.
2017, he was quarterbacks coach for the Redskins.
Yeah. And so James, I just read this scenario. No, I'm sorry. I did not read the scenario. I read a different scenario from Turf Show Times suggesting that the Rams have interest in Kirk Cousins. That
but
one
who would
be,
go back?
What's that?
Who would go? Who would the Rams get rid of?
They would just trade away their draft picks like they always do because they don't have anybody to trade back, man.
How would they fit him under the cap too?
I don't know. Fake cap, but
Yeah.
I think the only reason I bring it up is that obviously I like Cousins, and so I read the article and I thought, wow, that would be horrible in my opinion for Cousins because the Rams, they basically gutted the team, but also, what does that mean for Stafford? Does that mean that they're like, oh, Stafford's really not doing well here, and we need a quarterback? Because otherwise, the Rams would be thinking, Stafford's our guy. He's going to be healthy. He's had plenty of time to recover now, unless he's having some kind of complication.
True, I also think, and this is going to sound crazy as fuck.
Okay.
I think if Stafford isn't ready, I think Stetson Bennett can step in and excel. And if Stafford isn't ready, I don't think there's a chance that Stafford might not get the starting job back.
Oh shit! You think he's that good, huh?
I think that from what I've been reading and what the coaches are seeing, it's really good.
Okay, I got you. Well, that's fine because I like your Kirk Cousins to San Francisco much better. I think Cousins would thrive with Shanahan once again, and it'd be better than ever actually because he's a better quarterback than he was back in their Washington time together. And so I think that'd be sweet. Okay. So I don't know. I kind of like hijacked one of yours again. Do you want to go again or?
All right. So I will go to, where should I go? I will go to Washington.
Okay. Oh, all right. Yeah, I think I know where you're going here.
So They did decline the fifth-year option for Chase Young,
Yep.
and has a little bit of injury history, much like another former first-round pick that Atlanta traded for in Okuda. I would like to see the Commanders trade
What the hell? I just had a bug land on me. Sorry.
no trade Chase Young to Atlanta.
Okay. They doubled down on that play. I like it.
Maybe some draft picks, maybe a player. Who would I throw in there?
I mean, you don't have to necessarily work out the details. It's just the hypothetical of what kind of value would he add to Atlanta, which is a team that started picking up momentum last year. They need help on the edge. He's an edge guy with a ton of potential. Um, I like that pairing. I heard something this past week about Indy having interest in Chase Young, and I kind of thought, Indy. I don't have any expectations of Indy competing this year. I think it's
Yeah,
a Richardson, get your feelers going and get ready for the NFL game. But um,
yeah. So with Chase Young, the couple things, the thing I just caught back up on my notes, like the uh, player personnel guy in Atlanta was involved in Washington picking Chase Young.
oh,
And
gotcha.
I figured out the player they would send back, Mikael Walker, linebacker, which is a
Okay,
team need for Washington. Maybe
gotcha.
a
Okay.
maybe a fourth round, 24 fourth, or 25 fifth, and Mikael Walker.
Yeah, what was it the Lions got from Atlanta? Do you know? It was a
I
late round pick, man.
it was like I want to say it was a fourth,
Okay.
but it
Because
might
yeah, I
have
mean, I,
been.
I think I think you'd probably get more for Chase Young, but it would still be later than people would expect because
Mhm.
of just how bad the first leg of the career's been.
Yeah, I'll look up while
Okay.
you're going through yours or doing
Yeah,
your
I'll
next
give
one.
you
I'll
I'll
look
give
it
you
up.
one of mine. Yeah, I'll give you one of mine. So one that I had on here was linebacker Isaiah Simmons. So we're going back to Arizona. I had a lot from Arizona. Um, so Simmons, as we know, was a former first round pick and sort of like a Swiss
Fifth
Army
round
knife.
pick.
What's that?
Akuda for a fifth.
Okay, gotcha. Good to know. Yeah, so fourth for Chase Young, that could be in line. But yeah, so Isaiah Simmons, former first round pick, Swiss Army knife on the defense. Arizona has never really found a good, stable place for him on the defense. And there was some talk about them at some point parting ways with him this past year because it just wasn't working, despite his immense amount of talent. And they've now brought in a new head coach that's a defensive minded head coach. I could see him making a change here because he wants his guys, not people that he was forced to inherit. And I was looking at Cleveland as a potential trade partner here because when you look at what happened with Cleveland's defense last year, they had serious injuries at linebacker, and then they had issues in the secondary. Isaiah Simmons hypothetically could float around and do a little bit of all of that if you needed him. And I look at this as like a make or break year for Kevin Stefanski with that Cleveland Browns team. They got to get their shit together and make something happen, or there's going to be some problems. I'd be looking at any option you can, and I think they need far more help on defense than they do on offense.
I like it.
Well, thank you, sir.
I'm going to go back to Minnesota.
Do it, do it.
Defensive end, Danielle Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
He's I'm just saying, I've been hearing that Minnesota wants to get. There's
Yeah.
something going on there.
Yeah. I've been hearing it too.
Um, George Payton, who's the GM of the Broncos, was in Minnesota and involved in drafting Danielle Hunter.
Okay.
With that, everything that's going on, wanting a new contract, not getting a new contract, and I'd say Danielle. I'm trying to come up with somebody to go back, but I'm failing on it,
Yeah.
so I'm just going to stop. But I think it would be a good fit, for, especially with uh, what's his face being out, and then yeah, they did sign Frank Clark, but he's going to play defensive end, and Daniel Hunter maybe move inside for there.
So yeah, and I'm glad you brought him up because similar to the Chase Young thing, I read an article this week about Hunter being linked to the 49ers, and they were saying
Ooh,
San Francisco made some calls about him last year, and it didn't go
ooh.
anywhere. They did bring in Javon Kinlaw this year, but they lost a guy on the defensive line though too, and so um, I thought, man, if they could get him, wouldn't that just be like the rich getting richer on that defensive line? And you talked earlier about maybe you go Cousins for Trey Lance. Maybe you go Trey Lance for Danielle Hunter, man, and maybe there's something else in the mix because Lance is a high first round pick a couple of years in on his rookie deal. But um, for San Francisco, it could be, we're going to have the best defense in the league, and eventually Brock Purdy's going to be good enough. We're going to get to the fucking Super Bowl.
I do like him. I like him to San Francisco more than what I came up with.
Well, I mean, Denver's not bad either, man. I mean, you got a GM connection, so it makes logical sense. Plus, Sean Payton loves to stack that defensive line
Mm-hmm.
too, which is something he did in New Orleans, and so I could see that being good there too, man. But yeah, there's a handful of teams out there this time of year that are linked to like so many people. Like the Dolphins are linked to a lot of people. Denver's been linked to a lot of people. San Francisco's been linked to a lot of people. The Patriots are always fucking linked to everybody and their mom. And so it's all good. It's just whatever. This is just whatever we either read in the rumor mill or we're coming up with on our own, man. All right, so here's one I could use some help with, James, because this one I thought of like right before the show, and I didn't find a dance partner just yet. But you got Baltimore, Patrick Queen. They declined his fifth-year option, and we know they brought in Roquan Smith last year, paid him huge money, and it looks like Patrick Queen is probably on his way out. He
Mm-hmm.
needs to have like a knockout season for them to re-sign him. And even then, they might already be making calls just saying, yeah, we're going to cut the cord and move on now. I think a change of scenery would be good for him. He's a first round linebacker, a lot of potential. Um, and I think that to some degree, he's been playing in a very deep Baltimore defense for however many years now. It's hard to show how well you can shine when you're surrounded by that many other good players.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that elevates you, sometimes you get lost in the mix. And I think for him, he got lost in the mix. It doesn't mean he's a bad linebacker. He was just not like a fucking all star like Roquan Smith. And so, you know, I'm just trying to think of a team that would benefit from bringing in a linebacker like him. Maybe Tennessee, give Rabel a guy. The Giants, they've needed linebackers for a long time. Although the Giants, I think they've now drafted some guys and they're maybe moving in the right direction. But I think this guy needs a new home, man.
So the team that comes to mind right away when you say linebacker need is Washington.
Okay. Well, yeah, you mentioned them just a minute ago. Yeah.
I mean, that might be why they come immediately to mind.
Okay.
But outside of that, I'm trying to I think Indy, but they Baltimore wouldn't trade him in conference.
No, that's true.
I
That's
think
true. Yeah,
I
so
actually
Tennessee might be a stretch too because it's an AFC team, but yeah, I
yeah
got you.
I think possibly Washington would be a good fit because it's not that far. It's not that far. Like he hasn't Queen hasn't had any issues. He's in the Baltimore area. It's just kind of like he's
Oh man. All right. So this one just hit my brain, and it's more just me thinking about how great it could be for Dan Quinn to have him go to Dallas. Get him with a real fucking badass defensive
mm,
coordinator that's gonna know how to fucking highlight his abilities. Parsons has turned into an edge rusher, you know. Get him in there to be in the middle of that defense.
hmm.
I think Dan Quinn could make him one of the, I don't know, not like a fucking top five linebacker, but Dan Quinn could probably have him be in like top 10, top 15 level linebacker.
But so here's my issue is I don't see you want him to excel, and with Micah Parsons there, and that he might get lost in the mix there.
Well, I'm just looking at Parsons playing more Parsons is going to be rushing the quarterback, you know? And so you need somebody to be more that middle linebacker field general because Parsons is going to be more of like a Clay Matthews, I'm on the outside going after the quarterback every play.
True, that could work.
Yeah, and Patrick Queen, he's a middle linebacker with really good range to run down running backs and whoever on the perimeter. And so I think a guy like Dan Quinn could get more juice out of him than what we've seen in Baltimore. All right, who you got next, my friend?
All right, I'm gonna save one. I have two left
Okay.
that I came up with. First, I'm gonna save the last one because it'd be a mind blowing trade, but I can't find the perfect team. I've
Oh,
narrowed it to two teams, and I'm gonna need your help a little
yeah,
bit
maybe
with.
we can collaborate. Yeah.
But there's the New York Giants have an absolute need for wide receiver.
Okay.
Absolute 100% need to give Daniel Jones the
Yeah.
weapons for he has to prove that he can take it. No, he can lead that team, and the only way he can do that is with weapons. There's a player that is a wide receiver that's he's young and probably would take like a second and a fourth or a second and a third round pick to get him. There's been which is what this team seems to be demanding for this player,
Okay.
and that's Jerry Judy.
Oh shit, man! I didn't even I didn't even know that Judy was still out there anymore. I thought Sean Payton was gung ho about hanging on to him.
So I had read.
I mean, if I was Denver, I'd trade the guy. It just hasn't worked. But yeah, okay, because they still have Cortland Sutton. They still have a lot of weapons on that offense.
Yeah, they have a lot of weapons on that offense. They wouldn't. So I'm trying. So there's trade rumors around them trading one of the two.
Okay. No, I mean, hey, if it's Judy, it's Judy. That's, I'm not, I was just, I heard rumblings of Judy a while ago, and then I thought with Sean Payton coming in, I thought he made some kind of comment about how he wanted him there or something like that. He was like trying to like, help assimilate him into the Sean Payton era somehow.
So
But him to the Giants, just trying to think. So, all right, no, go ahead. Go ahead and finish where you're
so
going.
so I don't put much stock in Sean Payton was gung ho about Judy
Yeah, it could just
because
be smoke and mirrors.
what else if Sean Payton comes out and says he's not gung ho about Judy, that just tanks the value.
That's why.
100%
No, very good
tanks the
point.
value.
Very good point. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. You got to put lipstick on that pig, man.
yeah, and I think after last year's production with Russ between Sutton and Judy, I think they're looking to get rid of one of them.
Okay.
I also did know that at the trade deadline they were actively shopping Jerry Judy.
Yeah, yeah. I think that they'd be better suited. This is just my opinion. I think that Sutton. He reminds me more of fuck. I can't remember his name. One of the older Saints wide receivers. But then again, Judy, in some ways, not like 100%, but reminds me a little bit of like Tyler Lockett, which Russ was really productive with in Seattle. So it's kind of,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I could see him on the move for sure. I could see Judy getting out there. And then the Giants, here's the thing with the Giants, man. So I had a guy, Mike Evans, is he's been rumored to be out in Tampa Bay, that they're going to commit to Godwin as their wide receiver one, and that the team is kind of in shambles, and so maybe you move on from Mike Evans. I had him, in my opinion, I had him to either Houston or the Giants, and I liked the idea of him going to Houston because I thought Houston needs a wide receiver one. He's a bigger physical wide receiver. Maybe that kind of like embodies what DeMeco Ryans wants from his players, helps the development of CJ Stroud. But then at the same time, I thought, well, the Giants, Daniel Jones, in my opinion, is not like a great quarterback. If you got a guy like Mike Evans where you can just throw it up and let the guy physically just get the ball, that's going to help Daniel Jones. But yeah, all right. I mean, I'm throwing stuff out there, man.
So actually, I just realized I had two more. Mike Evans was the next one.
Okay.
I had narrowed it down to two other teams.
All right. Yeah. Where do you have him going?
I I was between New England
Gotcha.
and Baltimore.
Man, I don't know. Wide receivers in Baltimore just bothers me. I just don't think Lamar is ever going to have good chemistry with anybody other than Mark Andrews. I don't know what it is. It's like
I
he can't throw outside of the hash marks.
I hear you, but he also has never had a true number one receiver.
That's true.
He
No,
still
that's
doesn't
true.
have a
Yeah.
true number one
And
receiver.
if you're going to give him one, make it a big physical one because he's used to having the big
Hmm.
physical tight end do all the work. And
Yeah,
so, you know,
and
yeah.
so for the Baltimore trade, I had Baltimore sending 2024 second round and Duvernay
Okay.
to Tampa Bay for Mike Evans, and then you have your four receivers, the true number one Evans, you have Beckham, Flowers, and Bateman.
Yeah, I mean, and Baltimore's got to be thinking we need to make not just a playoff run, we got to make a Super Bowl run. Mike Evans could be like the cherry on top to help them pull that off.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, then it's like, wow, we really fucked up with Lamar because he just can't consistently throw outside the hash marks.
So, and then I hadn't figured out what New England would send to Tampa Bay,
Yeah.
but looking at they need a second receiver. They have Smith Schuster, and that's about it at the wide receiver position. And Mac Jones needs, again, this is a situation where Mac Jones needs weapons to really be able to decide if he's a good quarterback in the future.
And Mike Evans would make his job a lot easier.
Would make his job a lot easier. He's also the most consistent wide receiver that I have seen, that I can remember seeing. He's been in the NFL for nine years. Every one of those 9 seasons he's played in the NFL, he has had at least 1,000 yards.
Yeah, I like Mike Evans a lot, man. I thought that honestly, I thought he was going to do more with Brady in Tampa Bay, and then it kind of just bummed me out because Brady had such a great connection with Godwin that it was like, oh man, I was hoping he would have had that with Mike Evans, and it would have been like a bunch of fucking 1,500-yard seasons or whatever, and it wasn't quite that way. But yeah, Evans he's solid, man. He's freaking solid, and I like him because he's a big physical guy, and I love that style of football, man.
Yeah, and I think either one of those two teams, I think the Giants could be a good fit. I understand the Houston fit for him. I think it's quite possible that Evans could be traded this year.
Yeah, man. With the way Todd Bowles was talking about, oh, we're not rebuilding, we're reloading or whatever. I think he's in denial that they're in a rebuild, but they're in a rebuild. They lost Tom Brady. They lost a number of guys. They're in salary cap hell. I think that, I mean, at some point, maybe it's mid-season, you realize it's a wasted year and you really got to pull the plug. Mike Evans is one of those names that's going to be out there, man.
Yeah, so also it would save them $14.6 million against the cap if they traded him.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, so, another guy to New England, because we got them, like I said, everybody and their mom is linked to New England, or you could link to New England. This is a guy similar to the Saquon thing. He's got a contract dispute. Josh Jacobs with the Raiders. He's franchise tagged. He's pitching a fit about his long-term prospects. Basically made some kind of comment that he might hold out week 1 if he doesn't get the deal that he thinks he deserves. And these running backs, man, they're like, they're trying to band together, and I don't blame them. It's almost like they're trying to form a little union within the union, James. So, and I don't know if it would help them, but when I think about what's going on with him, and he's been in the Josh McDaniels system for a year. I like the idea of him going to New England because Belichick loves to run the shit out of the football. He's going to do it with Ramondre Stevenson, but it would work better with a partner. And Josh Jacobs is another one of those physical running backs. It just seemed to me like that could be a good fit. And then it takes even more pressure off of Mac Jones because they're just going to beat people with defense and power running game. You're not digging it as much as me, and that's okay.
See, my issue with that move is I don't see it as being a much better fit or much better prospects for him down the road with being in New England because Belichick notoriously can just
Won't
pull a
pay.
running back off the street and won't pay him because
No, that's a very
he
good point.
believes.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Why? Yeah, why would Belichick pay him? uh, Belichick basically invented the running back by committee. So yeah, no, you're right. You're right there. All right, who you got next, man?
I only have one more,
Okay.
so I don't know how many more you have, but
I don't know. I got a couple, but they're not as hot as some of these other ones.
so there's a team that's rebuilding,
Sure.
and there's a team that had probably, I'll say they had the best defensive front in football last season.
Okay.
So you have the Houston Texans, who
Yep.
are obviously rebuilding, and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh yeah.
So the Eagles send a draft pick or two to the Texans for Jerry Hughes, defensive end. Hughes is veteran edge rusher. Last year he had 15 sacks.
Yeah, I kind of saw him as like a building block to pair with Anderson, but um, what do you think that they're going to be playing the same position or something?
No, this is kind of it, it's kind of one of those things where this is my I would like to see it, not that I actually think
Oh,
is going to
I got
happen.
you. I got you.
Because
Yeah, this is like a
Hughes,
fan favorite kind of thing.
I mean, Hughes has been, I mean, he's what, going into his 13th season?
Oh, I don't even know. Yeah, so I
14th,
guess building block maybe not the right word, but
yeah, 13th season. Yeah, he could give some of that veteran leadership, but I just, I look at his career and I think, how sweet would it be
oh,
if he
to go
had
out on top.
if he were able to go out on top. I mean, he has in
Yeah, I
his
love those
career.
scenarios.
Oh, and this just reminded me of something.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm gonna go off on a tangent and I'll come back to Hughes.
Yeah.
Stats you think are fake but are real.
Okay.
When oh God, what's his name? What the fuck's his name? When, not Reggie. Reggie White. When Reggie White set the sack record,
Yes.
how many games do you think he had? What was it, 20 and a half sacks? How many games do you think he played in that season?
14.
12.
Yeah, he was a fucking just a beast, man.
12.
Yeah. Such a nice guy too. You you think for that dominant of a defensive end, he'd be more
Uh-huh.
like a frickin' Lawrence Taylor, just a frickin' animal. But no, Reggie White was like the nicest man on earth, man.
Uh-huh. Exactly. So he played in 12, I'm sorry, it was 21. It wasn't 20 and a half, it was 21 sacks.
Okay.
12 games.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Oh man, this frickin' bug is coming at me. Get out of here. Yeah, and he was a bigger guy too, and so it's almost like those like you look at like the 3-4 defensive ends or the interior defensive linemen that are like the bigger defensive linemen. His body type was that.
yeah,
And those guys usually do not rack up those kinds of sacks, man. It's like the Aaron Donald thing. It's so rare to see a guy that big be that disruptive.
I I agree. And I'm going to go to one more and then I'll go back to Jerry Hughes.
Sure.
If I were to give you the list of Jim Harbaugh and Bo Jackson,
Okay.
who would you think has more rushing yards?
Ah, man. I mean, obviously, I would think Bo Jackson, but the dude got hurt, so I don't know.
Jim Harbaugh has 5 more rushing yards than Bo Jackson on 42 more carries.
Okay, okay, 42 more carries. Okay. Well, Harbaugh had a fairly long career, but he was a quarterback. Bo Jackson had a fairly short career as a running back.
Yeah, I heard that this week. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? That there's no way that can
Yeah, that's
be
wild, man.
true. Um, but yeah, so Bo Jackson. I wanted to pull his stats. I looked it up and I was like, wow, it is true. Bo Jackson had, where is it? Professional understanding batting NFL career stats. Bo Jackson had 2,782 rushing yards.
Yeah, I mean,
On
for what kind of cred he gets, man. I mean, you'd think he was like a fucking 15,000 yard runner, but
on, but he only played 38 games total.
well, I know that's what I'm saying is that it was just
Right.
such a short, just a flash in the pan, and then he had that freaking hip injury or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm. Jim Harbaugh had. Let me see if I can. I can't pull his. I went to the wrong source, but had 5 more rushing yards than him. Anyways, back to
And,
Jerry
and
Hughes.
how many yards did Harbaugh play? I mean, how many yards? How many years did Harbaugh play?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
All right,
14 years.
so he had 2,000 rushing yards as a quarterback in 14 years. That's actually, I mean, that's a lot for an old school quarterback not named Randall Cunningham, man.
Yeah, he had 2,782 rushing yards in his career.
All right, so let's do math
On
here. That's 200 rushing yards a year. And so back then, I don't know how many games were they playing, you know.
he averaged 15.7 yards per game.
Yeah, that's a lot for an old school freaking quarterback, man.
He played in what is the total games? I'm going back and forth between two
Sure.
different
Yeah.
two different sources here. Let me find the. We gotta find the right one. This one. Here we go. He played in 177 games.
Gotcha. Good for him, man. Good for him. I liked,
Yeah,
you
he
know,
had.
I liked Jim Harbaugh all the way up until the frickin' Schwartz handshake bullshit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then Harbaugh was like cocky motherfucker post game. It was like, come on, dude, you didn't need to do that. You're a head coach. You know, like have respect for your opponent, man.
And I said 42. I meant 46 more carries.
Okay.
I digress.
All right. So
So
let me give you one.
Jerry Hughes,
Oh
back
yeah,
to
yeah,
Jerry
yeah,
Hughes.
yeah.
He's played in 201 games, has 447 total tackles, 92 tackles for a loss, 18 forced fumbles, 11. No, that's not right. No, it's only 2 interceptions. My eyes went up. But he has 67 total sacks.
Okay.
Last year he had 9. It wasn't 15. It was 9. He started 16 of the 17 games, played in all 17, had 9 total sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and an interception. So I think he's made the playoffs, including in 2019, basically his years in Buffalo, 17, 19, 20, 21. He's played in 2-3 playoff games, hasn't made it to the Super Bowl. Or he's played 9 total playoff games in his career. I think adding that piece, it would be a good piece for Philadelphia to add. It's a need for them. And even though I haven't really heard rumors of him being on the trading block, they probably want him to mentor all these young players they're bringing in and be that veteran leader of the team.
But, if Philly made an offer they couldn't refuse.
Yeah, I personally would like to see him get traded to a contender so he can have that shot to go out on with a championship as opposed to stuck in another rebuild.
Yeah, no, I like that, man. I like him as a player, and it's always good to see the guys reach that peak. So, all right, well, I'll give you my last one here, and this one was just a highly speculative, highly unlikely coach trade, which was based off of the Rams having interest in Kirk Cousins. I thought, okay, if there's something going on with Stafford, is there a scenario where the Rams trade Sean McVay? I don't think so, because he would probably just retire. But you look at how many guys they lost on that team on both sides of the ball. And if if he's got some like longer term injury where he's not coming back, maybe you say, holy shit, not only do we not have a path back to the Super Bowl, we might not even have a path back to the playoffs for at least another year. Because if they have another season like last year, some fucking heads are going to roll. Is there a scenario where McVay gets moved? And so I put him on here. I didn't even put a team with it because I thought, no, he'll just fucking retire if they tried to trade him. But it just makes me wonder what's going on with the Rams, man.
Yeah, I really do wonder what's going on with the Rams. What I'm reading, though, is I've heard if Stafford is unavailable, look for Stetson Bennett to be Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Shit, that'd be nuts, man. That'd be nuts. I mean, it'd be a great story for him coming out of college because, he was a big name college quarterback, but NFL draft wise, dogged because of his size and whatever else. If he could come in the NFL and actually do it and prove it, it'd be a huge fucking win, man.
But that's all he's ever done. He wasn't recruited out of college. He was a walk-on at Georgia. Beat out a 5-star recruit to win the starting job. Won the national championship. Probably should have won the Heisman one of those years. I mean, he's done nothing but prove people wrong.
Yeah. No, I'd love to see it happen, man. I'd love to see it happen. And I mean, hey, not like because of bad for Stafford, but just good for him. That's what I mean. So, all right. Well, that's all I got, man. You want to segue over here to question of the week?
I'm good. Yeah, we can move on to question of the week.
All right. So, as I was kind of teasing earlier, the Cardinals and the Vikings, they wanted to trade DeAndre Hopkins and Dalvin Cook. Neither of them could find trade partners, and so ultimately both of these guys were released. And now they're sitting out there as free agents, and they're starting to make their tours. They're talking to teams. They're being patient, taking their time. So my question is just, where would you like to see each of these guys land? And before you answer, James, like I always do, I'll give you my answer. Nothing crazy. I would like to see Hopkins either go to New England or to Tennessee. And my preference between the two would be Tennessee, because I think Tannehill can still be a good quarterback, if he has a good wide receiver to work with. And it would also take pressure off of Derrick Henry, who obviously last year had that injury. They need all the help they can get on that team. And so I'd like to see Hopkins go there. Dalvin Cook, everything I'm hearing is that it's like Miami or Denver, except that I heard Cook denied Miami. He declined to go and visit them. And so that's kind of strange for me. I've also heard the Jets and the Patriots are in the mix. Um, it's tough, man. I don't know. Something about Cook has soured with me, and it's almost like I'm not like really feeling a strong vibe for him with any of these options. But we did talk a couple weeks ago about Denver and Javonte Williams coming off of the injury, and so I thought I like Sean Payton. I'd like to see him succeed and have some weapons. And so maybe Denver, but it be a stopgap kind of thing. And so that's probably not a good fit for Dalvin Cook. What do you think, man?
Denver is a terrible fit for Dalvin Cook. Fucking terrible fit.
Well, I
I
know
was
you think that, but I'm looking at easing Javonte Williams back into action because there's still rumors that he might not be ready for week 1, man.
so I had not seen that Dalvin Cook said he declined a visit to Miami. And that threw me for a loop because Miami was my fit for Dalvin Cook.
Oh, and Miami wants him bad. But yeah, I saw he declined the visit. Um, it doesn't mean that he wouldn't go there. It's just that he's saying he's taking his time, basically wants everybody to come to him, and then he's going to decide. It's almost
Oh,
like, oh, you want me to come and audition? I don't think so. You audition for me.
I'm sorry. I just came across something, and I want
It's all good.
to. I wonder. Huh. I wonder if that's why the trade fell through. Because
What's that?
I went to look I went to look up like because I hadn't seen the quote and so I wanted to see what the actual quote was about Dalvin Cook and Miami.
Okay.
Um, and I came across an article that said that Miami and um, Minnesota were actually very extremely close
To working out a trade,
to having a trade,
maybe
finalizing a trade
Cook
for Cook.
rejected it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The quote is they came very close to a trade.
Gotcha.
So, but then that threw me. But so, and then
Fucking Miami trade for Eckler and Cook signed with the Chargers, man.
so, but here's the thing with okay, okay, I'm I'm seeing more into this.
Okay.
When Cook was released, he said he would be a perfect fit in Miami.
Huh.
Um, and also said that, but he did say he was after reports that Dalvin Cook was near a deal with Miami. He said, "I declined a visit, so you know my guy." In response to on Twitter, he said that on Twitter
Okay.
to McAfee Pat McAfee hinting that there was a connection between the two.
Gotcha.
I'm still gonna go with it. It's such a perfect fit, and I agree with him.
You'd
It
think.
is a perfect
Yeah.
fit. Um, he reportedly though also has multiple offers on the table.
Oh, I'm sure he does. You know, they're just not offers that are lighting his world on fire. And so he's like, he's trying to get people to bid it up. He's saying, "Oh, I got multiple offers, so you better give me your best and your highest, or whatever bullshit. Give me the best," because he's trying to like help the running back market and help himself, and that's how you do it. You do it
Mhm.
by playing everybody against each other.
So there's this article on CBS.com, and it's talking about the unsigned free agents, the other ones that we haven't talked about, and this is I'm just going to read it. It's by I'm going to just read the little like
Is it
two
the
three
Kareem Hunt
sentences.
thing?
No, but
Oh,
it's by Jeff Kerr
okay.
on CBS.com on their NFL page. And it says NFL insider Tom Pelissero told Rich Eisen's show on Tuesday that Cook has multiple offers on the table from prospective teams and he expects Cook to command a significant contract.
Oh yeah.
While Cook could technically sign a deal with any team at the moment, Pelissero did note that his camp may not look at the start of training camp as a firm deadline and could simply wait out the market until the right deal comes along. Teams
Yeah.
reportedly interested in Cook are the Dolphins and the Jets. Cook has hinted he would like to play in Miami.
It's weird that he would decline the visit, but also do that. That you're playing games, man.
I think he kind of wants to wait a little bit, doesn't want OTAs, wants to get
Oh, for
get
sure.
past all
For
that. And
sure. All these veterans are like, "Oh, I don't want to do off-season fucking workouts. I want to wait until, week 3 of preseason and then sign and then just hit the ground running in week 1." You know?
mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that sounds fine in theory. And I'll tell you this, if you're going to be in a position to do that, it's going to be a running back because it's the easiest to transition into a playbook. So, and you want to wonder why the running backs aren't getting paid that much compared to other positions. Well, because you got the easiest position to transition into the freaking playbook. So come on, man.
So on to Hopkins.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a team that I don't think I heard you mention. While I think Miami would be a good fit, him and Hopkins and
No,
Tyreek
because they
Hill,
got Jalen Waddle,
and
man. Do
Jalen.
they do they really have another mouth to feed?
Like I said, while I think that would be an
I,
intriguing
I
fit,
was saying I was saying New England and Tennessee.
I know New England is probably the odds-on favorite.
Okay.
Don't be surprised if Buffalo comes in late.
Him and Diggs.
Him and Diggs.
I did hear a rumor about him being the number two to Diggs. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, could Hopkins accept being a number two? At this stage of his career, man, it's like, dude, if you want to win that ring, this is how you do it.
So here's the thing that I'm reading is the beef in Buffalo with Diggs is the fact that they haven't brought Hopkins in for a
Oh,
workout.
well, yeah, because
Hop,
Diggs wants the ring that bad.
Diggs wants to ring that bad. Diggs reworked his contract to take less money. Uh, the way what's his face, Josh Allen worked his contract to not have Von Miller worked his contract to have cap space to bring in a receiver like Diggs to be that number two and make that offense fairly dynamic.
They just got to do it then.
Yeah, and I
I,
hear
I would
that.
love that, dude. I would love to see that happen.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. Sorry, wife.
Oh, it's all good, man.
But yeah, I would love to see that happen. I really, really would like to see Buffalo win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, they need it, man. They fucking need it, dude. Oh, all right, bud. We're I don't know, we're pushing almost hour 50 minutes here. I That's all I had for question of the week. Did you have anything left on that or any closing thoughts there, James?
I don't think so. That's all I had. Just it was. I found it interesting that you picked those two.
Well, it's just the obvious what's in the news. Like I said, some of them were just like out there in the rumor mill that I was like grabbing, and then some of them were ones I was coming up with, and yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I like that one. That's one that's I've not heard the connection with that I think would be amazing if you could pull that off.
Yeah. If you could pull it off.
All right, well, hey, we got to come up with a topic for next week, which we always will, and
Yeah.
we'll find out what we did this time last year, and we'll do something cool or whatever else. But for anybody who's still watching, we hope you liked the show. If you did, hit that like button or the thumbs up or whatever platform you're on. And, for sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We do this every week, minus last week and whatever. But we're
We
about to
do it
get back
most
into a good
weeks.
rhythm. Yeah, we do it, 148 times out of 153 times. So pretty
Yeah.
goddamn good. But yeah, James, I hope you have a good night, man. I'll catch you later, buddy.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.